Look, he's mowing Gippy Gumpy's little, I've got a corn husk in my hand, little grazing ground before he even mows our yard. Big teddy bear of a man. Okay, I'm trying to get you propped up here where you can hear me. If I have to stop really quick, it's because I'm getting a call. I went and got fresh ones corn out of the thing because you're going to have to make her shawl. And what you do is when you get the fresh one, it's got the vein in the middle. After these dry, you just pull and the vein comes out and you're left with the dry parts. And that's what we're going to make her doll out of. But I needed some fresh ones because we have to wrap her head and make her shawl. And you need really fresh ones for that. But what dangles down below from her body, you really want to be kind of drier so that you know all the bugs are dead. But you also know that how long roughly your doll is going to be so that she doesn't shrink up on you so much that, you know, you don't know how far she's going to hang when you hang her on your porch. Okay, so you guys will just have to bear with David's mowing. I can't make him stop. He mowed Gippy Guppy's grazing spot before he ever started on our yard, if that tells you how mean my husband is. He's such a teddy bear. So all the ones that we picked yesterday and we dried, we just laid in the sun for a day. Look how much they dried in one day. So we just want to pull those off because we now know how long that's going to be when we make the tail of her dress. And we want to put the dry ones in one pile and then the couple of fresh ones we got today in another. The fresh ones we're going to use to make her head and her shawl. Now this is not a traditional corn husk doll that I'm making. It's a kind of like a tobacco leaf doll pattern that I got when I was younger. But I will show you the traditional corn husk doll. But I think instead of drying them out of the garden, I'm just going to go to the grocery store and buy some because that's how most of y'all will do it, and show you how to rehydrate them and make them so that way you all know how to do it the way that you all will be able to get your supplies. Because see, when some of these dry up, they dry up really short. See, that's a very tiny. So you think you have all this material, but you know if you've done this before, they're really going to dry up on you and you're not going to have a whole lot of material left. Oh, and if you like my shirt, this is one of the shirts I got with Gypsy when I went to spend the night with Gypsy when we went thrifting for $2.25 at a charity thrift shop. And overlook the hair, I dyed it last night, and so it's having a day. But we're just going to split it. And it comes right off that vein pretty doggone easy. You just got to kind of make sure that you got a straight tear going on. And you just kind of want to take the material that wants to go with you. You don't want to force it. Because you don't want to force this to bend to your will because it won't. It never does. So it's not difficult. We want the dry stuff for the hanging doll. And I normally keep one vein that I've detached from everything. I keep one vein in the middle of the doll just to kind of use her as a spine, a backbone. And it kind of, I tie everything onto it. And I'll also show you that later today. So this one started coming off on this side on its own. So I'm going to go ahead and take it off. And then take this one off. This is all you do. You just devein your corn. We're shooting at stuff this morning. That was actually a closer shot than I'm not used to hearing. In the sticks, it happens. So this is kind of long and skinny and pretty dry. And that's a pretty strong backbone. So I think I may keep this one as the backbone after I get these pulled off, because seems like a pretty stout one up here at the top. That is pretty stout. And we need something to fix her head to and her arms to, just kind of give her body a little bit more stability. So some people like to just get a twig or a branch or something to put in there. I would rather use the same material, and when these dry, they still dry pretty doggone strong. So I'm using my hammock to put everything on until I get it pulled off. So this is not a difficult craft. It's just time consuming, especially if you go and gather your own materials like I did. But I mean, you get a little bit more satisfaction out of making it, I guess, if you gather your own materials. Now, the one bonus to doing it from dried corn husks in the store is that you can actually dye those. And so you can make, I'm throwing the trash out as I do this, so David will mulch it when he mows. 2 in 1. One advantage to getting dried husks from the store that you rehydrate is that you can dye them with Rit dye or food coloring, any color that you want your doll to be. And so you can be a little bit more creative. And you know, you can paint these if you want to take the time to do individual leaves, but it's much easier to dye the dry corn husks. So if you want to get like really creative and have a pink, or like my tobacco leaf doll was a mauve doll, they had dyed her in like a purpley pink dye, and then given her a regular dry tobacco leaf apron. And so if you do the dried corn husk from the store, you can do a much more creative. And we have some, I got some red leaves, so I'd have some red stripes in her skirts. But if you get the dry corn husk at the store, you can get a little bit more creative because they're a little bit more substantial and tough. So like these are really delicate when, you know, when I'm pulling them off. The ones in the store when you rehydrate are not delicate. They're like sheets, little washcloths, and by golly, you can just put them in a bucket of dye, just like a piece of material, and they don't give as easy as this stuff does. So that's one of the benefits to the store-bought dried corn husks. And I mean, you can get them at Save-A-Lot, Walmart. Don't go buy them on Amazon. You'll pay 10 times what you pay for them at the food store. Seriously. And there's no difference in craft corn husks and edible corn husks. No difference. Just the price you pay. Don't let people hoodoo you, y'all. My hair's got to go up, sorry. Don't let people hoodoo you. It's just, yeah, I mean, I know that in life sometimes things happen, but don't let people hoodoo you. I rag curled my hair last night, and let me tell you what, I got some Texas hair going on today, y'all. I also put up a funny from the video that happened yesterday of the live, where the young man was very inappropriate in my video. So that my newbies, I've got several newbies from my Monjero updates and stuff, they could see that I don't tolerate the trolls very. I mean, I do tolerate them, but I don't put up with their crap, and I'll give it right back to them. So, I thought it was funny, inappropriate yet funny, because I have a horrible sense of humor. So I think we've got plenty to make our doll. You can make them as big or as small as you want. I just want a medium-sized one because my porch is decorated to the hilt. I don't have a lot more room. Be careful when you're pulling these off, because if you get a sharp edge on this vein, you will paper cut yourself on corn. It can happen. It can happen. I'm gonna have to kick all those out to make sure he runs over them. But look at this pretty red color. So that will stay in her dress as well. See how easy that one came off? It just depends on, I normally just let them dry for one day. And I probably could have done this yesterday evening too and got away with it. But I waited till this morning because I was busy yesterday. It was David's one day off from work, and I was cooking, and I had to beeswax my cabinets. Since I'm feeling better, I'm trying to get my house caught back up on some things that just upkeep that needed to happen. I've been busy. And then I have to rest in between all those things. So I just had a really busy day and didn't get to kind of catch this yesterday evening. So I'm doing it this morning. But I probably would have been easier if I'd done it yesterday evening. That one's not so pretty, but it'll add volume, so we're going to put it in there anyway. I'm just going to pinch that off and put it in there too. Okay, so now I've got a pile of dried. I've got a pile of a few wet that I picked live off the plant this morning that are very flexible. And you'll understand why they need to be flexible in a few moments. And I'm going to take my crap inside. All you need are your corn husks, scissors, and jute. If you're using the dehydrated corn husk, you need a bowl of water as well. David's mowing the backyard now, so I'll see you at the kitchen table to craft. Okay, we are now in the kitchen. I have my dry corn husk here, and I have my fresh ones from this morning placed in a separate area so I know which is which. Now, anytime if you're working with this, if you try to do this, if you're working with fresh corn husk and you think they're too dry, all you gotta do is put some water in your kitchen sink, throw them in your kitchen sink to soak for a little while, they'll rehydrate. Like I said, when you work with the corn husk that you buy out of the store, you have to rehydrate them anyway. When you get them out of your own garden, you can kind of flex and do this a little bit easier, I think. It takes a little bit more time, but for me, it's easier than having to rehydrate and have water and everything. And okay, so I'm gonna keep all my dry ones here, and I kind of know that when I bunch them, I kind of see a shape forming like this. So I know about how long my doll is going to be and about how full my doll is going to be. And you can always add more later if you want to. That's fine. I'm just going to try to get the body frame of the doll going right now. That's what I want. And I've also got a stick back here that is kind of hanging on to provide a little bit of structure as well. So I'm just trying to get all the tops kind of even up here because I'm going to use them to help wrap her head and help make the rest of the doll. So if you want to make the head, you can either wad up a bunch of corn husk. You can use a styrofoam ball if it's going to be somewhere that's out really super weathered. I always like to show you the cheap and easy way out. I have a sock that I never found the mate to that went through the dryer. Apparently the other one went to live with Jesus in heaven. I don't know where its mate is, and this was not an inexpensive sock. It's a Mary Jane sock. I'm just going to wad that bad boy up because my doll's not going to be super big and I don't want her to have a giant head. Okay, we're going to keep her ego in check. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start wrapping this with these wet ones that I got this morning. And I'm going to go opposite ways. And you're going to kind of just keep working around like, slices of a pie until all of that is covered. But I will say that the last one you put on, you want to be a wider one. And you want it to kind of give her a flat face. So you kind of want the last one to go kind of like this. Now this will be covered up top, but when you bunch it to tie it, you want it to give her a flat face. Now she's not going to have a face, she's just going to have a head, but you want it to be flat. You don't want it to be all over the place. And so what we're going to do is we're just going to tie this with twine. Okay, now I've still got this much left at the back. So I'm going to leave me my few green leaves back still over there. I left me like 4 or 5. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take her body. I'm going to kind of find out the head placement I want. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to find where I can bend this in 2. And then I'm going to tie the string right in the bendable spot. But I'm going to twist her head because I'm going to eventually bury her and twist her down in there in a little different way so I can put her arms in. Now you can give these arms. I may not give her arms. We'll see. I may give her arms later. Hang on. Let's just see where we go with this. I may just like her dangling like this. So now we've got this big sprayed out thing that looks like it's going to attack us. Push her down, push her down, push her down, push her down. Okay, now look at that. Do you see that? You see this starting to form? Okay, now when these dry, they will not move. So make sure it is where you want it before it dries, okay? Now you can give her a torso as well with arms through there, which I probably will do, but I'm going to go ahead and show you the shawl. So this is her face and this is her body. These are her shoulders. And I can still put arms on her after I put a shawl on her if I want her to have arms. Her shawl will go over her head and wrap around and down like an X, okay? Around and down like an X. And then we will tie it down here. But you got to get it right where you want it because once it dries, you can't move it anymore. So let me look at her here and get her shawl on her. I'm going to do one around her face and her head. And if you need to put a spot of glue, or you feel that you would feel better if there was a spot of glue there, I understand. I've got the first one around her head. We're going to do another little tie. And now she's got her bonnet. Now we're going to do the other part. Okay? We're still going over her head. Let me get this one. We're still going over her head. But I want that to wrap down around what's going to be her torso, down around what's going to be her torso. Then we're going to get another one that's fresh. And we're going to start the thick side over here this time. And then down around her torso. And down around her torso. And if you want to give her arms, you can kind of leave yourself enough room. And I'll tell you what I have done on occasion is dig out a splice through there and stick you a marker, a twig, or even a pair of scissors. I'm going to stick a marker through here. So I know where her arms are going to be. That's where her arms are going to be when I put them in there. It's kind of a space saver. But I'm telling you, when these dry, they won't move. So you better put them where you want them, and you better make sure they're where you want them. Because after you put her in the windowsill or wherever you're going to put her to dry, you ain't going to be reconfiguring this little hoochie mama. She's there to stay. So what I may do is go in and add a little glop of glue up there to help her hold while she's drying. Because when she dries, this sucker will not move. So now she's got her shawl. And when you get her arms in her and bend them, I'm going to bend them down to hold a bouquet of flowers. She'll look more like a person. Put your head straight. Okay, now let's move to the next step. I'm going to tie her bosom. Okay, I'm just trying to break this up into parts where I won't have so many things to edit, or such long things to edit when I get done. So now I'm just going to tie her torso. Take another green one and pull around right here and just put it in the back. Let me show you. Let me pull this down. And I just bring them around the back and twist them. And then I pull my strings around them and I tie so that they're tied in with everything else, and as they dry, they'll just be her waistband. You can give them aprons. You can really kind of do anything you want to do with them. Okay, so I need to go make her some arms now because she looks kind of silly with a marker hanging through her body. But this is going to be my little doll, and when I get her arms up, I'll probably push her waist up a little bit. But I'm going to bend her arms down to where and when I lay her down, I'm going to make sure that this kind of sucks close to, when I lay her down to dry, I'm going to make sure this kind of soaks close to her bodice and crosses over the way I want and looks the way I want, because when it dries, it will not move. I cannot stress that enough. I even go put a dab of glue after she dries in a couple of spots, just because I'm overkill. But this is going to be her bodice and her dress. And this is just going to be a wall hanging, corn husk wall hanging. This is not a traditional doll. This is actually modeled after a tobacco leaf doll. But mine died after several years of being on my front porch, so I'm making a new one. I'm going to now go and strip 6 pieces of 3 corn leaves. Take each side. You get 2 strips off of each one. I'm going to take 6. I'm going to use 3 and 3 and braid her some arms. So I'll be right back. Okay, now since my doll is a shorter doll, I'm going to take a liberty here. I've got 6 strips, so I'm going to do a double braid. I'm going to tie toward the end, because we're going to cut that off and make it even after we get it braided. Tying them so they won't twist. It's really kind of handy to have someone else to hold the other end of the cord for you. I'm going to split these up. Now you can braid each arm separate if you want to. You really, really can. But I'm going to take a liberty here because she's a shorter doll, and I'm going to braid all mine together. And you just braid. This is why we needed fresher ones. They will actually braid. And of course, if you get the dry ones in the store, you've rehydrated them, so they will braid as well. Be careful if you've not handled corn husk a lot, because you will cut your fingers to ribbons. Now, I am a farm girl, so I'm used to it, and I kind of know how to handle them. But if you don't know how to handle these big old things, they will cut your hands to ribbons if you ain't careful. So be careful if this is your first time braiding corn. Can't believe some of the sentences I say. If this is your first time braiding corn, be careful. Now see, I cut that off just enough to give her something that looks like a little nub of a hand. That's going to be your nub of a hand. Now I'm going to take my marker out, and this is where it's going to get tricky, because when you take your marker out, slide your finger through, okay? Slide your finger through. Now these are traditionally made out of tobacco leaves, but I'm making mine out of corn husk because it's what I got. I ain't got no tobacco right now. Alright, got it weaved through. Now I'm going to cut these down to make her other hand. And now I want her hands to be together at the end of all this, so I need to get her arms the same length. And then I'm going to come down here and tie her little hands together, because when she dries, like I said, I'm going to put dried flowers, a little dried flower bouquet, glued in her hands. Snipped her waist right then, I'm pushing it up. I want her waist higher. I want her to have a shorter bodice. So I push your arms way up as far as I can, and I'm going to tie it. Yeah, I like that better. And then I'm going to slip this through my twisted corn that I made to cover the jute band. I'm going to make sure that that goes way up under her arms too. Then I'm going to pull her little arms back down. Okay. Straighten your arms up, Linda. Your arms are crooked, honey. Whoever told you to stand like that? Your arms straight. Okay. I'm not necessarily super thrilled with the way her shawl worked out, but for fresh corn, it's pretty good. So this is her shawl. I will probably add a drop of glue in a couple spots when she dries to hold it. This is her hands that are going to be holding a little bouquet of flowers. I'm going to pull them down straight. And this is her body that's going to hang down. Now, you can also go back out to the garden and get more tendrils if you want her longer and more voluptuous. I don't. Actually, I kind of want them all to kind of blend in, so I'm going to give her a little bit of a haircut. And this is going to be my little doll that hangs. Now,